Hello?
What's up, girl? What happened after Tony dumped you?
Girl, I'm over it. I went from heartbreak to hate.
Hi, Bob.
Fuck off, Joy. This is our third time recording this podcast.
I know you're thoroughly frustrated.
I'm thoroughly frustrated, and I'm angry at everybody and everything.
Yes, and I am familiar with how that works. So
Clearly, everyone's fault.
I'm choosing not to take it personally.
Why would you take it personally?
I'm not. That's the whole point.
I'm glad you're on that point.
Yes. Okay. But other than the fact that technology is not working the way it's supposed to, how are you?
Grandies. Ever since you started talking about chicken, now I'm into
every
the chicken you can't have anymore.
I think about Grandies. The problem with Grandies is it's in locations that are like impossible to get to without driving
2.5 hours.
3 hours, really. And they're like not next to anything.
No. Like, how do these Grandies exist whenever a town with a large college in it couldn't support one Grandies?
Right.
But this small town in Indiana.
Like, every time we drive past the old location of Grandies, the one next to the mall.
But it's nothing now again?
That's nothing. I just get sad. I still feel the hurt.
Taste that buttery biscuit in your mouth.
I used to get the little... Anyways, I don't want to do a whole thing about chicken.
Weird.
But it does,
Chicken's later.
It does segue quite well
into
stereotypes. We're about to talk about all the stereotypes. We aren't just going to focus on black stereotypes. But I figured I might kick us off with black stereotypes, because why not?
I mean, I think growing up, probably those are the ones that I've probably heard the most.
I think they're the ones
prevalent
most people
in society.
Yeah, they're the most prevalent.
Yeah.
That's why I figure I'll jump us off.
Us off.
Okay. Jumping off.
That cliff.
Now, will white men can't jump be one of the stereotypes when you get to white people, or no? Is that going to be included in your repertoire?
I think the problem with that movie is Rosie Perez, but no, I love Rosie Perez, but a lot of people didn't, though. A lot of people
did not love her.
No, I do.
She's very a lover or hater kind of that voice.
I think that's the thing is though that like if you understand that it's not like a put on voice, then it's kind of easier to like her.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people thought she was acting. I mean, she was acting. She's a good actress.
She is.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for me, Rosie Perez is all about the opening credits of Do the Right Thing.
Right.
Where she's just busting a move.
Yes.
Fully. Okay, we've digressed. But nonetheless, I needed that moment.
But white men can't jump.
That's right.
So I think the problem is that everybody who saw that movie... If you haven't seen that movie, you don't need to. It's basically people who you probably don't even know who they are now anyway, so there's no point in going back in time and looking at a tax evader and the next guy from Cheers and Rosie Perez. She's on The View, though, now, right? So they probably do know who she is. She's on one of those shows.
Oh, is it The View? She's on one of the top
One of those shows.
Yes.
Anyway. So the problem with White Men Can't Jump is that white men literally took that as they can't actually jump. Not in the basketball term of like dunking, jumping, dunking, maintaining air, the whole ability to slam dunk a basketball. But I was in high school when that happened.
Yeah.
And I remember white guys being like, but I can jump. Look at how I can run fast and jump.
That's amazing. I will say, in my personal experiences, we're digressing again, but nonetheless, this is what we do.
It's on top. It's in the
white
galaxy.
People love to be quite literal.
100%.
All the time.
Well, that's the thing is that we did not, and I'm saying we, as a collective group of people,
there you go,
to kind of associate with them,
not
talk down to them, but talk with my people.
There you go.
White people. So, like I was saying, they didn't understand jump meaning something other than the literal word jump.
Yes.
And so, and that's part of the problem. I think it's part of the problem. I think a lot of times white people think that they don't understand because they don't understand terminology used in places that aren't Farmville. They don't understand. They think that they're being made fun of.
Right.
Because they don't understand.
Yeah, I get that.
So I think it's the problem with the white men can't jump being a basketball term from the street, I guess, that white people were angry.
How dare you say
jump.
we can jump? I got it.
Literally.
Yeah.
Biff and I were just jumping yesterday.
You shut your face. You've never met a Biff in your life.
I want to meet a Biff. Biff, if you want a blowjob in a cemetery at midnight tonight, give me a call.
Okay, I'm going to steer this shit back on course. Thank you for that lovely side moment to discuss white people and their jumping abilities. Jumping into black stereotypes, if we would, kids.
Yeah.
Let us open our books. No, so
that big, thick book of like 5,000 pages of stereotypes.
So many stereotypes. We're just going to drill in on a few.
Just go for it.
Just a couple. I'm going to start with the Mamie stereotype. Like, now this is, again, one of those dated things. It's not as much anymore. But there was a time. When you just...
It was a different time.
It was a different time. You just smack an old black lady's picture onto any product.
With a head bandana.
Yes, I mean, with some kind of kerchief or something on her head, for sure.
She said kerchief. She's like 72
I
years
know!
old.
I thought you would like that. I love it when I do things that I know you're going to be like, are you serious? This just makes me so happy. Yeah, because there was this Mamie stereotype where it was like, it was based on slavery times in this idea that, you know, the older black lady was just the most dedicated slave and the most dedicated worker. She was highly skilled at cooking, taking care of the children. She lived for it. And so she's what white children grew up with. So if you see her face on syrup or whatever.
It calls you home.
Yeah. You know it's a trusted product. Right. Because if Mamie uses it. Or Jemima. If they use it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, why were they always like larger black women?
Well, I'm going to go back to that's like part of you need larger black women to mate with the large black men that you bred for.
Here we go. Okay.
That gets into the Mandingo of it all,
I got you. Yes. Okay.
So, yeah. I mean, even if you think about somebody like Sojourner Truth, she's described as a big woman. Like she's like 6'1" or something. Just very broad bones. So, yeah. I mean, listen, that's what white people were doing. They were figuring out how to just crank them bigger and bigger.
And we didn't just start with dogs, y'all.
Yeah. No. Started with peoples, but we're going to get away from that. But yeah, so that's one of those stereotypes. You know, the old black woman, she knows all of the house products that you need and things and trusted.
Or your pancakes and your syrup.
Yeah. But when you take me to why is it always a bigger person, that takes me to the Mandingo stereotype, which is, you know, why black men are so big and why... they're known as being so well endowed, like why that's a stereotype. That actually came from Birth of a Nation. And like all of these stereotypes a lot of them come out of the end of slavery times and white people trying to figure out, okay, how do we discredit these newly freed people before they get the idea that they're living in a great new world.
We cannot let them be equal.
Not even remotely.
Not even in our mind.
So in the movie, apparently, I have not seen it, but...
Oh, yeah. I've seen clips of it. It's pretty horrid.
Yeah, I don't think it's something I would ever sit through. I'm going to promise you.
No.
They use the stereotype of somebody that's very aggressive and, you know, going to attack your daughters and that sort of thing. And that really allowed people to feel okay about the fact of, you
killing
know, lynching people. Yes. Yeah. Just, you even looked at a white woman? What is wrong with you?
Well, that's just it, right? So they already have it in their head that this is what's going to happen even if they look this way at my horribly ugly daughter.
Right.
That no one wants to have sex with anyway.
So essentially, what was good in slavery times then became bad as soon as slavery was over.
Right.
On the auction blocks, people were looking for what seemed like the strongest, the biggest, fittest male.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you've got all these big, fit males, and you're like, oh shit. So you have to figure out how to turn that into a negative stereotype and something that you can use against them. And so then it becomes more desirable as you're trying to live in society to be smaller, to not be something that's so noticeable, because you might get to actually live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I mean, and yeah, we'll get into that mentality, but that's the truth of today, even.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So. Some of the food ones, watermelon and chicken. You know that's the thing. It's like, for some reason, even though everybody loves chicken, that's not vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. I mean,
like, if you're a meat eater, everybody eats chicken. Have never met a person who's just like, chicken, I can't even. I don't want it.
No, I mean, pork, yeah, people are like, I don't eat pork.
Yeah, like I eat meat, but I don't eat pork.
I eat bacon, but I don't eat breast pork. Yeah, I mean, that's just, that's things people say.
Yeah. So chicken and watermelon are kind of somewhat intertwined. Watermelon was kind of seen as, who had access to it, it seemed like a rich person's thing. Like, oh, you have enough money to have watermelon. It's a more pricey thing. Mm-hmm. But then it got turned into this thing, well, it's messy because you kind of have to eat it with your hands. And because a lot of freed black people started growing watermelon, then it became quickly like, white people at the time, I have to say, they just changed the game oh so quick. They were like, oh, we've canceled watermelon. See, cancel culture happened even back then.
Everything.
Like, we used to eat watermelon. Watermelon's canceled.
Canceled. And the thing of it is like, you think everyone thinks that it's different today. It's not. It's a different world, but it's exactly the same.
It's the same.
The people who have the power and the money control the way people think,
mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what was going on.
It's just the tactics are changed.
Exactly.
So that put watermelon out. And chicken was kind of the same thing. Chicken was also actually featured in Birth of a Nation. There's this fight in a courthouse, and there's a black man eating chicken, supposedly rowdily or something. I don't even know how you do that with chicken.
How do you eat chicken loud?
I don't know, but I guess it's another one of those foods that you eat with your hands. So it's seen as uncouth and not as refined.
Right, because
which is why you see people sometimes trying to fork and knife cut into chicken, and it makes me crazy. That's not.
No.
That's a false. Please don't ever do that.
No.
No.
You can cut it with a butcher knife when you're cutting it up, when you're piecing it out.
If you have to cut into your fried chicken when you're out in public, then just don't eat fried chicken in public. Don't eat fried chicken, no. Just don't do it. Get a salad.
Maybe a chicken salad. I had a thought there. Now I'm lost my thought. Whoa, it was deep. It was important.
Okay.
It was special.
It was special. It'll come back to us if it really is.
No. I got it now.
Okay.
So you were saying like the eating with your hands thing, and that was kind of because of that turn of the century of that time in the late 1800s, where people started putting more focus. You know, we established America. We killed and murdered and raped everybody. We kicked everybody who was, you know, we got all the Mexicans back to Mexico. We got all the slaves are free now. But now we have established land with these grand houses, and now we want our etiquette back that we had, you know, European style. So people were becoming fancier in their houses and things like that. And so that was definitely of that time. So I could see where selling etiquette and that could easily fade into anybody who eats with their hands is, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's part. Everybody wanted that. Everybody wanted to be socially elite, and that was one of the ways to do it, was to have etiquette and silverware, and you know.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, it's even today. It's a very subtle way to dig at people. I think in today's society, it's a little bit more classist than it is racist. But you know, these ways of what you should order when you're out to eat, and you know, I mean, there's still certain arenas where women specifically are getting etiquette classes on what to do out in public, how to use, you know, the cutlery and all of these things.
I have Emily Post's book on etiquette. If we'd like to read it,
please no. I'd rather poke my eye with a pen. But yeah, so that's a few for you. I think it's enough. I almost feel like we can just take a break on Black Stereotypes for a second.
Okay, that's all of our podcasts for this week. Please tune in next week.
white peoples.
So
I almost joined you there.
I'm your life coach
Okay.
on how we get stereotypes.
Ooh. Thank you.
So that's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
So I'm not going to leave black people alone because I want to say that, black men being criminals is a big stereotype.
Yeah.
And that is perpetuated by the news media. Because if a white person does something, no one gives a shit. But if it's a black person, they have to have the picture up on the TV, on the news.
Yes.
They have to tell them their life story.
Mm-hmm.
They have to find the most ignorant motherfucker on the street to talk to them about that. Because that's something they do too. So it's just like, let's just, and it's always some toothless white guy saying, well, it was black. Blah, blah, blah. It's just like that kind of shit. But that's been perpetuated for years. And so when that's the only thing you see on television in these small little towns with only white people, it helps create that fantasy that all black people are criminals.
Yes. And there's very concrete examples of this, specifically thinking about Hurricane Katrina. There is, like, you can look at side-by-side news articles of white people with, like, food items, blankets, and things that they didn't just have in their houses. And it says they found these items. They found things to survive. And then you can see a picture of black people with food items, blankets, whatever. And they're people who looted, broke into stores.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They didn't find them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
they took them.
yes.
Yeah.
So I just to reiterate, like, that's a very specific example of how it's also how you frame it. You know what I mean? It's not that it's not happening across races. It's that it's reported differently.
Absolutely. And I mean, Katrina is a great, and I'm not talking about the rapper Trina. I'm talking about the hurricane. Because I just recently found out her name is Katrina. Anyway, so that's the same story. I mean, the stories were reported differently on the news as well. Like, it's more, I don't know. I remember it being more disastrous when they were talking with white people that were affected compared to the population that was mostly affected, which were black people because of the segregation of that area anyway. And then just like, it's like pans over just all the area and then doesn't talk to anybody. But then let's get to the white person and ask them how they were affected by it.
Right. So.
But then as a white person, I'm here in Champaign, Illinois, doing a bar crawl to benefit Katrina.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Juxtaposition of life.
I don't know if I knew that.
No. It was a stupid time. Anyway, so with that, going off of leaving black people alone, stereotypes of gays.
Oh, okay.
So not all gay people are musical lovers.
No. Wouldn't imagine.
So, that's one thing, like, just like the stereotypes of all gay people are super effeminate, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's what's caused our internal struggle with being effeminate is that was the stereotype that was portrayed in all movies.
Yes.
So in the self-hatred that already is being gay, we have created this world where we say we have to say that we're masculine.
Yeah.
Just so that we don't, and that's an attraction point. Like, I don't want an effeminate guy, I want a masculine guy.
Yeah.
But, like, what is even masculine? We don't, and then we're trying to not even say what masculinity is anymore and kind of destroy that as a world. But those internal struggles are still there because of our representation in the media and in movies and television all through the 70s and 80s. Like,
it's true.
there was no gay person that didn't have a lisp or a limp wrist
or a swish in there.
Or swish.
Yes.
And even if they weren't even a main character, even if they were just like a waiter, because there was always a snarky gay waiter on television shows and stuff like that. And it was just always that character.
Yeah. Which I'm going to guess stemmed from heterosexuals' need to have in their minds an easy way to identify homosexuals.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want to get caught off guard. So I've decided that all homosexuals are super effeminate and have a lisp or swish their hips or something. So it's so noticeable. It's not something I have to worry about.
Right. Because you can't just tattoo us like they did in Germany.
Right.
You can't just give it, or put a little pink triangle on our shirts or,
Yeah.
So, I think it's exactly it. And it's easy. It's also a straight man's way. Because, we've talked before about how straight men don't like gay guys because they hate any idea of anything that's feminine. Because they hate women so much that even a man who's slightly feminine is an offense to them. So that, I think, is what's perpetuated. That helps perpetuate that. So.
And then opposite for lesbians, because lesbians have to be butch. They're trying to be like a man. They want they're all lumberjacks.
Very predatorial.
Very predatorial. It's also the stereotype.
And it's ridiculous. I mean, it's the funny thing is like all these stereotypes and aspects of humanity can be all in one person. Like there's one person can encompass every one of those traits, but it's just that it's whatever they pick and choose.
Exactly.
So if a woman goes out and she, I don't know, chops down a tree, she's automatically a lesbian.
Yeah. And then it's one of those things that now, regardless of your sexual orientation, we're trying to get away from assigning traits
of gender
to traits of gender. We're trying to be able to say, okay, it's not, it's not the 50s anymore. Like, it's time to let all that go. In some ways, we've moved forward. In some ways, we've gone right on back.
Right. I mean, well, the thing is that, as long as it's going to take a couple more generations to get to a good place, I feel. I don't think it's going to start anytime soon. I mean, it started, but it's not going to be where we want it to be anytime soon. Yeah.
Swell. Yeah.
Because you just can't, like, some people are brought up with the ideas of gender and ideas of how black people are or how Latinos are or how Asians can't drive cars. Like, there's all kinds of things that people associate with races that they have no concept because they've never met a person of that race.
Yeah. Do you have any good white stereotypes you can discuss and where you think they come from or where you know they come from?
I mean, I don't know. I think... like, wow. Because I'm thinking like, what would be a white stereotype that we're gonna come in and we're gonna take your land and we're gonna kill everybody that's indigenous to the land and then but you know what? I don't feel that if stereotypes are based in truth that they're wrong, right?
I don't think that's quite what I meant when I was saying a stereotype.
I know.
Yeah.
I think
you know.
I think like a lot of stereotypes are that all white people like country music, that kind of stuff. It comes down into the when you get into white people, it's not necessarily a trait necessarily them as, a trait, so to speak, about the person, but it's things that they like and things that they do that are white people things.
I guess that's true. I would agree with that. I would
like
like
PBR and throwing bean bags in a hole, cornhole. White people.
Yeah. Mayonnaise too. Black people are obsessed with white people's obsession with mayonnaise. Just so you know, we've discussed it at the meeting.
No, I've heard the discussion before, I think it's amazing just based on the fact of the product being as white as it could be.
Yeah. It's also funny because, I mean, it's not like black people have an aversion to using mayonnaise. Although I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that we use Miracle Whip.
I know you do. But
what if our listeners didn't know that?
But Miracle Whip does have mayonnaise in it.
I understand that, but listen, Miracle Whip versus
also
mayonnaise,
is off-white.
that is a civil war. Don't even get me started on mayonnaise versus Miracle Whip. That shit will tear families apart.
And I think that's where it comes from. I think it literally comes from when the Civil War happened, because you can definitely see. So, yeah, I think that because like I lived in the South, and I specifically remember more Miracle Whip than when I moved to the North.
Okay.
And we all use mayonnaise.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We should have looked up the history of Miracle Whip.
We should have.
Because it's really just mayonnaise with something else in it. What's in it? It's different.
I don't know what gives it that tang. I don't know. Don't ask me.
It's not vinegar.
Quickly?
No.
Hold on. What's in Miracle Whip? 1 second. Just sing a song or something.
Miracle Whip, the whip of miracles. It's whiter. No, it's more yellow than mayonnaise.
Okie dokie. It's made from regular mayo.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's horse shit.
Yeah, tell the world.
It doesn't tell me anything else. No, that's the thing.
No, read the label on Miracle Whip.
Sweeteners is the main difference.
Yes, because you know why.
Get the fuck out.
That's
the main difference is sweetener?
Because here I'll give you actual scientific fact of what the difference is.
Okay.
In the South, I don't know why, because we can still buy Miracle Whip in the North, but in the South,
yes.
tuna salad sandwiches, tuna salad, Miracle Whip, relish, tuna, eggs.
Yes.
In the North, we have to add a little bit of sugar to our tuna salad to get the sweetness. So I think the sweetness from the Miracle Whip that's missing is why people in the North have to add it to their tuna salad.
Wow.
Now y'all have been schooled on tuna salad, and if you put raisins in it, shut the fuck up. Nuts too. Cranberries as well.
It's true. Grapes are the most offensive. Grapes always happen in like chicken salad. Why? Why are you putting grapes in fucking chicken salad? Please explain it to me. I didn't understand.
I don't know. I don't even know why people need recipes for things. I saw somebody at work printed off a recipe for coleslaw. And it was the most basic. And I'm like, why in the fuck did you need a recipe for this? Like, you can literally look at a container of coleslaw and know what's in it, right? I
don't know if there's ever been a recipe for tuna salad or potato, any of that stuff. It's like, keep putting it in until it tastes right.
You want it to stand still and not be runny. Once it's not runny,
yeah.
It's right.
Well, and that's why. So you learn there's certain ingredients start a little less.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, we've gotten into cooking now. But get the fuck out of here! I really thought there was something extra in Miracle Whip, and it's just what kind of sweetener they use, and probably a fucking shit ton more.
Yeah.
Wow. Mind blown.
Take that back to the Black Caucus.
Okay, I won't take that back. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. My mind is fully blown right now.
So, if you were a stereotype, what kind of stereotype would you be? Let's get to know Joy a little bit more.
Ooh, what if I was a stereotype?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, out of the black ones, just walking.
If you're a very woman of the world, you have a lot of culture from different cultures that influences your life. So whatever.
Well, you wouldn't be able to tell because, like, if I just wrote things down on paper, I think you'd be like, "What in the actual fuck?" Because it would be like, prefers mayo over mustard. So that's an anti.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't fit, right? Always early. Early is a family.
CP.
No.
P or CPT.
Yeah, no CP time. Yeah. But bossy.
You are bossy.
Given to anger in a flash.
Angry.
Yeah, so I'm a mix of stereotypes.
Because I'm bossy.
Yeah.
I give into anger.
Mm-hmm.
Rapidly. Like a lot more flat. I'm like the Flash of anger.
Right.
Like people say bipolar. No.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I go faster. So, but that's not a white stereotype either.
No, but like you have a lot of
establishment,
anti-homosexual, like what would not be
stereotypes.
Well,
and the
like
things,
the way you walk and talk. those don't fit into the stereotypes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the thing, and my interests sometimes don't really align. Even though I find that more homosexuals are getting into like seeing that homosexuals are gamers now and like horror movies and stuff like that. I'm like, did I give birth to these fucking people? Because they're all like stealing my personality. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm definitely, I don't know. I'm not anti, but I'm different.
We all are.
So, we've talked about some stereotypes. Obviously, we couldn't.
We can get into all of
I
them.
mean, there has to be a podcast dedicated only to it. There has to be, right?
It feels possible. There's so many podcasts.
If it isn't, I think that you should get 3 other of your other white friends and create a podcast only about stereotypes. Because that seems like that's what it is, right? It's usually 4 white people talking about things that aren't necessarily white people's. It's a podcast stereotype.
That is a podcast stereotype. I do not know that to be true.
Look it up. Stereotypes are horrible.
Right.
They exist because they've been passed down like some horrible crocheted shit from your grandmother and over the years. And it's like we've talked about bias before, and that's where a lot of that stems from, are those stereotypes. Yeah,
and the thing about stereotypes is if you really take the time to examine the ones that you think of in your mind, you'll find that you identify with more of them than you would imagine. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that you do see characteristics and people say, oh, they do this, that, and the other. But a lot of times they're accurate and like tiny, the minuscule aspects from it. But it's just they just take it and amplify it.
And that's it. That's it.
Yeah, it's just an amplified story created by the man to... Is the man white still?
Well, the man can't always be white because if there are stereotypes about white people, I'm going to guess the man didn't create those.
And remember that to be beautiful and natural is the birthright of every woman. And I wish you all loads and loads of loveliness and good luck.